Oh, here we go.
Yo, yo, yo. What's up, everybody? Good to be here on the stream, joined by all you lovely people. We are without Dale
Oh, here we
today
go.
for Yo, yo, yo. What's up, everybody? Good to be here on the stream, joined by all. Whoops. Put my
I thought
headphones
that
in.
was on my end. I was like, what the hell happened? Oh, God.
Well, off to a good start there. Obviously. Okay, I think we're good now.
We're good now? Okay. There we go.
Anyway, everybody, we wish Dale was here because obviously we don't know how to run a live stream without him. Dale is not here because he's allegedly too drunk to participate.
He decided to go play softball all day, which I guess softball is like code for beer league baseball, if I'm not mistaken. So it's just get drunk all day. So yeah, there's Dale. He's just gone.
Yeah. So anyway, we're gonna do the best we can. Just the two of us. Thank you for everybody. Everyone in the comments is lamowing at the sound difficulties, and so are we too.
Sorry, guys.
Yeah, I feel like I was tripping out for a little bit there. Anyway, this could be a symptom of me being too drunk. Also, there's a reason this stream is called this because Dale is literally too drunk to be here. I'm probably too drunk to be hosting in his space. But we're gonna do the best we can because that's who we are, and we want to talk some crypto and bear markets and shit.
Hell yeah. Want to interact.
Yeah. So, I guess let's start it off just by talking about Bitcoin and where the price is, where you think what do you think we're gonna do from here? We just did below 6,000 in the past couple days for anybody not paying attention, but
I'm pulling up the chart right now. We just closed the daily candle actually like 4 minutes ago, and that's a pretty gnarly candle. If just go look at it, like long leg doji, which traditionally could be seen as a reversal candle. So we can hope for the best on that. This is a pretty wicked candle to see. Weekly candle also just closed as well. Not the sharpest looking of candles, but at that daily close, gives me some reason for confidence. But that being said, I've seen some people going out saying they think bottoms in, and I don't believe we found the bottom yet. I think this is kind of just a classic, whether you want to call it a short squeeze or a relief rally. I think it was, and a mix of being in a really strong support zone as well. That whole zone from about 6,000 to 5,600 is a pretty important zone to me, and that's where to me that's where you want to be buying it, right? If you're on the buy side, that's where you want to be buying. So you don't want to be shorting in there, and I think late shorts kind of got wrecked today trying to short in that zone. And again today, like before that bounce, like I think a lot of people probably saw it coming. Like we had a lot of it was just the chart, it was looking pretty good even though it was dumping. It was like, well, we got bullish divergence here on pretty much every time frame. It's just a matter of time till this pops up. So and now we've gotten that pop.
explain to anybody who doesn't know what a divergence is, bullish or bearish.
Yeah, so bullish bearish, pretty much it's when, say for us, we had price action was going lower, yet on my indicator, an oscillator, whatever it may be, there's different ones you can choose to use, RSI, stock RSI, whatever. I use a weird one. I can't even remember what the name is. It's neither of those anymore. Let's see if the Storm Gore. I saw someone post about it on Twitter, how it was just a little more effective with pointing out the divergences for us, an oscillator, and I found it's just actually been wicked. And pretty much it's just when they're kind of going in the opposite direction, right? So we had the oscillator trending upwards, meanwhile the price was going lower. And even this morning, when I woke up, you could tell like the volume kind of wasn't there as we were making new lows early this morning. It was a little bit weak, and so that kind of just lined up with the that bias of being a little bullish because of that divergence.
Yeah, and I think it's a sort of thing where a lot of us have sensed this kind of coming for quite some time. I mean, obviously the market's been shit for 6 or 7 months at this point.
Mhm.
We did break a pretty important level at around 6,100, 6,000, where we,
Yeah.
were flirting with something looking like a triple bottom, perhaps, at that level. Over the past 7 months, we've kind of touched on that level and bounced up quite a few times.
Yeah.
But having broken that, and I mean, I don't think the volume is really too like
It,
confirmatory. I don't know if that's a word, but I don't think the volume
yeah.
is really convincing yet.
It,
But
the volume's been interesting because now volume liquidity has really dried up, obviously, around the space. And now when we see the dumps, usually it's more noticeable. It's like, oh yeah, look at the volume on that red candle. And that's, your signal. It's like, okay, we got way more sell pressure going on in this market right now because every big volume bar is accompanied with, a big down candle, right? So that's kind of an indication on where the market's at. Until we got a nice big volume with a green candle, I'm kind of just tentative. I'm on the side. It's like people were saying like, oh, I think this was the bottom. And I don't believe it was the bottom. Like, not yet. I still think, we might be able to go up higher from here still. Because momentum does a lot, right? Momentum is everything. So, we're going to probably carry some momentum from this pop up today, go a little higher. But I still think in the end, we're going to get back down, probably see that 56, maybe 5,500 zone. But I don't know if I really see us going a lot lower from these 5Ks. So we'll
I
see. I
mean,
remember at one point I was calling for like 4,500. I don't know if we'll see that.
so I've always been using like the 2013-14 bubble bursting as my sort of rubric or metric as which I want, or like to which I want to
Mm-hmm.
measure this one against.
Yeah.
And, looking at that, the market like crashed and crashed and crashed, went down to like 70% of what it was, or 30% of what it was, and went down like 70%. And then after it went down that much, it had like one final like crazy drop of
Yeah.
like another 40 to 50%. So
Someone
according to
posted.
that, I mean, I wouldn't be too I wouldn't be too surprised if we do go down to like 3,000, four
Yeah.
thousand or so.
There's the potential, right? Like and a big capitulation wick, right? And that might just be it. It might just be a really big candle that goes all the way down quickly. Maybe it runs the stops, whether it's a flash crash or what, or maybe it's just like a 30-minute dump and then all of a sudden the buy volume shows up. But the classic capitulation wick where it just takes a lot of people out. It'll run the leverage traders out of their positions. I'm still waiting for that moment, and that's kind of why I'm on the side where it's like I don't believe this was the bottom because we haven't got that yet. But someone posted a really good chart on Twitter today, and Bitcoin VIX retweeted it, and it was a comparison between like the 2014 bear market and then this current bear market, and it was very well done, I gotta say. And I'm not much for the whole fractals and all that. It's like, oh well, look at this chart price action pattern from this year and now look at it in this year. It's gonna be I think it's just kind of a luck thing sometimes, but these ones were eerily similar and on point in a lot of ways. And if it does follow this kind of fractal from 2014, this pattern of the downtrend, we will still see a lower point, but it would also say that we are getting close to
Did it say
being.
how low we go? Did it have like was it that precise or just lower than
Oh
here?
God, I didn't look at it that hard, but he had kind of a price trajectory of what it would be if it followed that. And so, yeah, I think anyone listening, just go look Bitcoin VIX, his Twitter, he retweeted it. And it's a really interesting chart to look at, but yeah.
Yeah, I want to give a shout out here. Cam Perry just said in the chat, I will say if y'all survive this alt, or if y'all survive this, the alt season will be glorious. And that's something we were talking about, I think, this morning in the chat
Yeah.
on Telegram. We have like a little group where we chat, obviously. And we were just saying to each other, like, this has been pretty shitty, just 7 months
Mhm.
of downturn and bearishness and people being salty on Twitter and all that. But think of how good the bear or the bull market is going to feel when it finally comes.
Mhm.
I think a lot of us kind of got dragged into crypto because of the last bull market, and
Mhm.
so we didn't, no matter how experienced we are, experience the entirety of it. But it's going to be really cool to ride out a full cycle and have that kind of perspective,
Well,
feel the market bottom, and just kind of be flat and boring
and
for a
not just
while.
that, but how many people, I don't, even in the traditional finance world, how many individuals actually experience a full, market cycle like that? For a lot of people in the traditional finance world, it might take, a decade to go
Yeah,
through a
10
full
years.
cycle, right?
Yeah.
Like for us in crypto, we're seeing all of this in the matter of, just months, right? This is insane. So it's like it's on steroids. So our experience, our learning process, everything is on steroids in this market. And I know for myself, I look back on everything from being in that bull run and still, in my opinion, being very inexperienced to that type of a market and those type of runs, and looking at it and saying, okay, I could have done a lot better when it was that bull market on, really pushing my pedal, hitting the gas pedal and really going for it. And then the same thing for this bear market, because there's a lot of things that I look at and it's like, shit, I really wish I would have played this better. I know I could have played this a lot better. I could have saved myself some money here on, losses that I've had to take. And it just comes down, for myself, just inexperience, right? Because this is the first true cycle that I'm going through. Now we have guys, the OGs they call, right? Who, these guys are the ones from 2013, 2014. They've gone through this once already, right? So they got it a little more, right? And it's all an experience thing to me, right? And so we're learning so much. Come the next, and our cycles, they're all on steroids. So we get to the next cycle and there's just going to be that much more experience. We're going to, and what's the saying? Smart money is just dumb money that's been through a crash before. I think that really sums it up.
And like my current view on the markets is I do think we're going to go a little bit lower than here. I've always been looking at this thing, like I said before, through the lens of the previous Bitcoin bubble, which was end of 2013, 2014. I think what we're going to go through in terms of the post-crashing period is going to be something like a shortened version of what we went through the last time. So last time the market was flat or down or kind of bleeding for, a good couple of years. And at this point, I think we're probably going to do that, but I don't think it's going to be that long. I don't think it's going to last like a year and a half, 2 years. I think there's too much interest in the space. I think it's going to rebound sooner than that.
Any little bit of liquidity that comes into the space, it'll be like a gust of wind and it'll just move it, right now, it's pretty much just, to me, it's just margin traders that are moving the market right now. Playing on Bitfinex, stuff like that. I don't find, there's not a lot of liquidity out there. So it's very easy to move the market. And you notice that we'll have green candles, but there's no volume to them. It's just melting up, right? There's just nothing to it. So once we start getting that volume back, getting some green candles with the kind of volume that these red candles have been seeing, the whole game, then the market's going to start turning around. And that's what you got to watch for.
Yep. Let's talk a little bit about this 21E800 hash nonsense that's been doing the rounds on Twitter. This is something that, for anybody who doesn't know, apparently there was a hash in the Bitcoin blockchain that was incredibly rare or shares some similarities with one of the first hashes initiated by Satoshi back in the day. I still don't really get this. So I'm sorry if I'm butchering the description of it, but apparently either the odds of this hash appearing are super, super rare, or it means somebody's a time traveler. I don't know. The whole thing is so ridiculous. I feel retarded even talking about it. But I feel like
I think it's the government. I just think I've always had this assumption that, nobody knows who Satoshi is. Some of this stuff to me, it just seems like, okay, this is pretty advanced. And I always found it odd that never wanted to say, take credit for it. He just disappeared, right? To me, the average individual is not going to do that. It takes somebody extraordinary to create something like Bitcoin and then walk away. So I'm still, wearing my tinfoil hat. I love putting on the tinfoil hats. I still believe, Bitcoin was created by the government. But we have, now speculation it was a time traveler. I don't buy into time travel all that much as I buy into a lot of weird shit. Time travel isn't really one of my areas that I like. So, I don't know. I'm going with NSA kind of thing.
Well, I don't know. I think aliens. This thing is like, I think this whole thing is like people trying to attribute, non-random things to random events. And I know the odds of getting this hash are super, super rare, but the alternative explanations are like time travel, quantum computing being a thing. Yeah. It seems very ridiculous. I don't know.
I think, yeah, it does. It seems so ridiculous, but I think there is a lot about Bitcoin that at some points it is kind of just ridiculous in general,
Yeah,
right?
for sure.
And this to me, and this is what I mean, like it seems so ridiculous, but the whole thing of, the creator of this, multi-billion dollar, you know, crypto just never coming out into the open. The coins I don't believe have really ever gotten touched. To me, that's pretty weird too.
Yeah,
So
that part's, but you know what? Honestly, I attribute that to the guy probably being dead because
yeah,
the thing is that much money at this point in time, anybody with any shred
yeah,
of a brain would have
yeah,
liquidated part of it at least, you know?
yeah. That's my thing. So it's either the person who created it,
And I
Hal
don't,
would be Hal Finney, right? I think
yeah,
that's kind of
I think
the
it's Hal Finney.
assumption.
I think that's Hal
Yeah,
Finney's address and he passed
yeah.
away and
I would
that's what it
guess. You
is.
know what? If I want to be without the tinfoil hat, I'm gonna say it's Hal Finney. If I'm putting on the tinfoil hat, I'm going with NSA or aliens. So
Yeah, I mean, it's fun to think about that stuff, but it's like the thing is going back to the whole, Satoshi has never moved his coins thing. I
yeah,
mean, I don't care how altruistic, how idealistic, how benevolent you are. It does not matter. You're gonna move and liquidate some of those coins if you make that
yeah.
much money. I mean, no, it would be to the point of like retardation if you didn't like sell any of that
You
stake
see,
after making that much money, despite how cool of an idea this is and how
I was
idealistic it is, but you'd have to be crazy not to take some profit.
I was talking to my brother the other night, and he's kind of into crypto, but not really, right? He's a gamer. He doesn't really give a shit too much about it, but he knows how to deal with the stuff. And he's just like, oh yeah, it was probably created by the NSA, CIA, all in conjunction with each other, so that they could figure out a new way to fund their extremist groups and all that. And I laughed, but then I was like, you might have a point, buddy. It's like, you just never know, and that's the thing. There's so many possibilities with it. I think time traveling is not one that I'm really going with.
Yeah, I mean, I could see the quantum computing thing where somebody cracked the code and has a quantum computer that's actually working,
Mhm.
but that even seems pretty unlikely to me as well.
Yeah. Well, hey, maybe the NSA is just, we got people. You think the NSA would hold it? They suck at saving money, the government. I like that. But hey, maybe they're just holding for a new base reserve currency. Ooh, dun dun dun.
Yeah. All right. Let's talk about everybody's favorite crypto grandpa, we'll call him John McAfee. So for anybody not
John.
paying attention, yeah, recently John got sent to the hospital allegedly. And apparently somebody tried to poison him. So
Yeah.
John has his fair share of enemies.
Yeah. No
Um,
doubt. He's had quite the life up
yeah,
to
he's been
date.
accused of trying to murder his neighbor, among other things. John, just saying, it's just an allegation. Don't come murder me if I'm wrong. But anyway, so John's in the hospital right now. So give us your thoughts on this, Prince.
Well, it's tough for me to want to speak out on it because John's quite, John's he's a funny guy. Now he's a genius. There is no arguing that. But he just doesn't give a fuck, right? He does what he wants to do. Um, so has he been poisoned by somebody? Well, that is to me a pretty big possibility with the lifestyle he's kind of had in the past, and I'm sure he has his fair share of enemies out there. I think today he went and posted a picture of a potential suspect saying,
Did he?
yeah, did you see it? So there's this guy, it's like you can tell someone took the picture through like a window. They're in like a house probably. And then the guy's like sitting on a motorbike, just looks like, he's got like this huge frown on his face. And it's just, even the picture, you're looking at the guy, it screams out like, I'm a dirtbag or something like that. Right. But and he's like, I'll give $5,000 to anyone who can, give me the info on who this guy is and all this stuff. And,
I mean,
John being
I,
John.
I would think John could find the info himself, right?
Well, I imagine. So I don't know, but there's another thing he put, like he knew there's been people watching him at his house, and because I think it was like he finds cottage cheese containers laying around outside or something, and the people watching him are eating cottage cheese or so. So how much of it I can really, buy into, I don't know. But at the same time, he's definitely a guy who's got his fair share of enemies. So I don't
Yeah,
doubt anything.
the whole thing is very interesting. Obviously, John's an interesting cat. He's led a very involved life, we'll
What
say.
he made a post about banging whales. Like I can't even like say what the post said because it was just so ridiculous. But
Wait,
he
this is
made a post about him, and he's like, "That is one tough thing to do. I almost got my ribs crushed by it." It's like, John, what the hell? Like,
Jesus.
so that's a guy who I would love to sit down with one day and just what, listen to, because he is somebody who is going to have some extraordinary stories. Like, that guy should just, I don't know if he has, but sit down and write a memoir, because one of the most extraordinary lives, with just consistent stuff going on. It's just like,
Yeah.
holy crap, what is he up to now? But
So we had Crypto Sister ask in the comments, do you think John, or not exactly asked, but this has been a topic of discussion that we're watching people talk about. Do you think John McAfee is a bad representative of the crypto space?
that's really tough. I think he's done some things that don't look good. It's like you could kind of tell how some things started to change in regards to him having his name with a project, where there was that time where it's like he would do like his whole project of the day or week or something, and then next thing you know, within minutes of it being tweeted, it would pump 100%, and then right away it would dump. And then he would be doing that later on, and the coins wouldn't even do anything because it's just like the magic wears off, right? I think he's definitely pulled some shit, and it's kind of been exposed, and it doesn't look too good. Kind of how much money he charges teams to kind of do promotional stuff or advertise or advising for them, whatever it may be, right? Some people are going to frown upon that. Sometimes the way he takes to Twitter, I'm sure people would frown upon that too, because there's a lot of people who want to be rather professional, even though I think the space is still very young, niche, and it's not really crypto's ways in a sense. It's kind of banditos, or the outliers, stuff like that. But yeah, I don't know. John, he's a tricky one for me, because he's a very smart individual. There is no denying that. The guy is a freaking genius, but does he give a good reputation to it? I don't know. When you're, putting the SEC, what is it, the directors or chairman or whatever, his personal info, like his phone number out, trying to get people to call in so that he'll debate with John on air, that's not good. Okay? That's not a good look. There's no way to sugarcoat that.
I mean, there are definitely some unsavory aspects to McAfee. I won't deny that. But I do think if you look at how tiny crypto is now, I think the estimates are that anywhere from like 2 to 3% maximum of anybody in the world owns any crypto.
Yeah.
If you look at how tiny we are right now, I still think maybe we're at the stage where any exposure is good exposure. And I know this isn't the best kind of exposure, but I still think it might be a net positive for the space, because every time CNBC decides to write an article about him, there's a certain portion that reads the article that is involved, and that goes, okay, we know this guy's kind of a whack job or whatever, but crypto's legit. And then there's a new portion that's like, I've never heard of this stuff. What is this? Maybe I should look into it, despite how ridiculous he might be. And so net, I mean, the overall kind of bare bones result of it, I think it's maybe a positive, but
to me, yeah, it's a toss up, right? Like it's a real toss up. You got the positive and you have the negatives, and they both weigh to me fairly heavily. So it's tough for me to give a solid, yes, he's good or yes, he's bad, because there's moments where I'm like, what the hell did he just say? Or what did he just post? Like, what? And then there's moments like, all right, right on, John. Like, it's awesome to have you a part of crypto. I'm so happy, you're one of those individuals who's outspoken about it and, very vibrant in the community for it all.
And the thing is, like, there's a certain fake it till you make it aspect of any new industry where you have to kind of assume the role of something legitimate to actually become something legitimate. And so,
yeah,
despite the fact that he's not the best rep, the fact that he's even talking about it is a positive, I think, because it's going to get into the psyche of enough people, that it'll become a legitimate product. Yeah.
Yeah, hopefully it just doesn't
You know
put
what?
the wrong image, you know.
This
That's
kind of yeah, this kind of makes me think of sometimes it's like this is a pet peeve of mine regarding crypto projects is you come into some and I know crypto has this big idealism behind it where you're supposed to be anti-corporation, anti-centralization,
hmm
but that doesn't mean that hype is a bad thing. So
hmm
you go into some of these projects, you go into their chat rooms, their Reddits, what have you, and you find some people that go, "Oh, we don't have to market because marketing is for projects that just want hype, they just want attention, they just want speculators." Like it's a dirty thing. Like you shouldn't
yeah.
have people speculating on the price of your asset. But that is completely a positive thing because if speculation brings in, let's say, 1,000 new people into your project, even if 900 of those are completely worthless and people just want to flip it for a profit, I mean, you're going to have, let's say, 100 or so, or some fixed percentage that are beneficial to your project, that do help out it, that contribute, that add to the code base, that make
hmm
an ancillary project like a wallet, associated
I
with it.
think,
So,
yeah, we've seen like the difference,
like,
marketing can do
don't
for a
let
coin. Like,
ideology get in the way of making money on a good project, you know?
yeah, and this is the thing, like there's some wicked projects in this space that are very low market caps, sub 30 million market caps, which to me that's like the sweet spot for, if you want to get something that can potentially make you some good returns. That's, those are the type of market caps you want to look for. And they have tremendous teams. They have, like exactly what you would want in a crypto developer, crypto team, truly enthusiastic, but they're so truly dedicated to it, but marketing isn't their thing, right? Because they don't give a shit about marketing. They're in it truly because they just love this stuff, right? And
Yeah.
so it's such a weird toss up, right? Because we have projects that it's all about marketing because they know it's like they want to make a buck and they want to do it. And so they're going to push the marketing out. And even though they don't maybe have anything going on, they don't have any good, devs, they have nothing. Maybe they have no vision, you know what I mean? Like it's just a marketing based project. And then you have the projects that there's like no marketing, but there is so much work going on behind the scenes. And I think we've seen kind of like some of the coins that were around before this whole ICO bubble started to happen are kind of like that, where these were coins that, marketing wasn't a thing to them. They had never really felt there was a reason to do marketing, let the work speak for itself, let the product speak for itself. And then we had this ICO boom. And it's like, oh, well, look at how much money can be made. Well, when that happens, marketing kicks up. And so you have guys who are, professional marketers just seeing the money making opportunities that are coming in, starting a platform. No vision, no real intention on maybe doing anything, but they will market the shit out of it because they know they can offload their coins onto the market and they can make a hell of a lot of money too.
And the thing is, too, like a good project has all of it. It's not just well developed, it's not just well marketed, it's both. Because
Yeah.
a really good project is going to have enough money to work with, I think, in mass, where you can
Yeah.
tackle multiple issues. You're not just a good fundamental project,
Mhm.
you're not just a well marketed one. You
Yeah.
should cover all those bases if you're well funded and have
Yeah.
smart people
Well,
behind you.
and that's the thing, right? And some of these projects that, in my opinion, these really, the ones with, great fundamentals from that side, that were around kind of before the ICO boom started. And there's a number of coins out there that were in this situation and are in this situation. They're kind of, nobody really talks about them, but yet they're great, right? And it's like, I have one in my portfolio that's like this, and it's just like, if it had the ICO money kind of thing, if it actually had money for that stuff, oh, it would just blow up. It would, but they just don't have that kind of access that these ICOs have, right? This whole ICO game, it's really kind of it's made things into a weird, interesting situation. So,
Yeah.
like we were talking with someone in it. I think it was the with Alex Wern there, our last interview, where he mentioned like some of these ICOs, they've raised so much money, more money than most startups would ever imagine raising. They're going to be able to do R&D kind of stuff for years. So how do you know if the products they release are actually going to be any good? Because getting a product out there, it's just about getting traction. That's the biggest thing, getting people to use it, right? And so no matter, sometimes there are better platforms, better products, but maybe they don't take the marketing. Maybe they just keep taking their time on trying to refine it to an absolute perfection.
Yeah. I mean,
And they might not get the traction though.
you can definitely be too heavy marketed or too heavy fundamental because
Mm-hmm.
good fundamental projects get beaten out by mediocre fundamental projects that market well all the
Yeah.
time.
Oh,
And so,
man, we've seen projects shit fundamentals, get over $1 billion market caps because
yeah,
they have a lot of money at their disposal to get that marketing out there, right? When you're seeing ads out in what Times Square kind of thing, I think it's just like, okay, we get it. You guys are pushing this, so
Yeah, somebody just brought up ETC. I want to talk a little about ETC. Ethereum Classic is a coin that for a long time I've thought has been kind of bullshit. I think they're just kind of capitalize on the Ethereum name. I think there's not much purpose behind it. I don't think too much is being built on it. Um, that's
yeah.
my opinion. So somebody asked, is it kind of weird that a coin goes from bleeding, no news, just kind of a boring state for like a year to a Coinbase ad? And I think it is kind of weird.
Um, it is, but it isn't. Look at who's behind it, right? Look at the money behind it. You got Barry Silbert. The guy's got a lot of money.
Yeah, Shilbert, I think
Yeah,
you mean.
and when it comes to the crypto space, there's power players. We'll call them power players, and he's one of those individuals. So, yeah, honestly, I'm not shocked one bit, and I think Zcash, we will see it up there too at some point. I've said that 100% in the past too, and I think we said the same thing about ETC in the past, that we would see it get onto Coinbase, because to me it makes sense with who's behind it, and sometimes that's all you need. It's just who is behind it, who's
So
backing the coin.
yeah, it's like, a part of me wants to be upset about ETC being added to Coinbase because I don't like ETC. I think my prediction for
Mm.
one of the whale reports was ETC will be $0 before the end of 2018, and that is not going to shape out well. But I think maybe a lesson to be learned from this is just look at how much connections still mean in
Oh yeah,
anything. You
yeah.
don't get a good job usually because you're a phenomenal interviewer and you have good credentials. You get it because you have good
Yeah.
connections.
Oh fuck, man, it's ridiculous. Like I'm really bad with that whole networking thing, right? So and I think you kind of realize it's like, oh, okay, well, it's not necessarily what you know, but it's who you know,
Yeah.
and I've had to learn that pretty quickly. Even just you do interviews with different funds, stuff like that, and it's
Hey,
just,
Prince, you want to know another project that has a lot of connections to Coinbase?
oh, Tezos.
It sure does.
Tezos. Well, hey, I think Tezos will be on Coinbase too at some point.
Hey, this is going to sound self-serving. Yeah, because we both have Tezos, but
I
I mean,
I do. I 100% believe it will be.
I
Just
mean,
with who's behind it. You got
yeah,
Draper behind it. You got Olaf. I do not see any reason that it won't be on
guys,
Coinbase.
I mean,
It'll
if
just be when.
Classic
That'll be
can
the
make
thing.
it to Coinbase, I think Tezos can too.
Well, and you know what? I think we're going to see
Right?
Coinbase really open things up as we go farther down the road here. They're going to open things up, and we're going to see more coins and more coins getting on there. Like, I believe what BAT token, to me, there's no doubt that'll be on there too. Basic
Yeah.
attention token. 0x, I think. I don't know much about the whole 0x situation, but I know there's a lot of hype about it being on Coinbase at some point down the road. I don't think anything is confirmed, but the hype is there, and the rumors. I think we're gonna see more coins getting added, and I think over time it'll become this thing where it's because for so long it's only just been the three coins, and then that whole it's kind of like the magical wear off over
You know
time,
what?
because I think they're gonna want to grow, and so
People need to remember this though, is like the more coins that get added to Coinbase, the less meaningful it is to get added to
exactly.
Coinbase.
Yeah, the magic will wear off over time, but in the meantime, yeah, coin getting added to Coinbase, that's hype worthy. That is, FOMO in, if you can get it in
Yeah.
on the announcements, and it'll probably, I think what we
See,
saw Ethereum Classic pump up like 20%, like within 15 minutes after that the news kind of came out or whatever,
the
and
thing,
this is in a pretty shitty market, so it's like,
yeah.
it's not bad, eh?
The thing with ECC though is like I feel like this is a coin that's only being kept alive because of insider connections at this point.
Yeah,
And fair
I
play to
can't
them.
disagree with that. Like, I've
Like
been thinking that too.
I feel like everyone forgot about it for a while, I mean, it was like super popular for ideological reasons as soon as it launched, and then everyone kind of forgot about it,
Mhm.
I think. But
Yeah, yeah. It's to me, I found it kind of weird when Barry stepped in behind it the way he did. This is going to be the next. This is the real Ethereum. This is truly, you know, decentralized, and I love this. I found it kind of odd, but then now I look at it and I don't find it odd. It's like it makes sense. It's like, you know, he
Yeah,
wants something where he can be probably the main player behind.
it's what markets do, you
And
know.
I do believe, you know, Barry is the main player behind Ethereum Classic. You know, the
Of
money talks,
course,
and
yeah.
he's the money.
I
So
mean, for anybody who doesn't know, Barry Silbert, as people like to call him, Shilbert, because he shills his own coins. I mean, who the fucking
mhm.
doesn't in crypto, though? To be honest. Anyway, he's part of the team and the group and the company that is behind CoinDesk, you know, a million other blockchain projects. So he's in large control of the media, which can kind of help you facilitate and promote things that you like, obviously.
Mhm.
But look him up on Twitter. His picture always kind of makes me laugh.
Yeah.
Um, Not to be personal, but it just kind of seems like, I don't know. The picture like screams like used car salesman to me, and that's kind of what he is in crypto. And so I don't
Yeah,
know.
it's kind of ridiculous. Eh? It's like he seems that way, and yet he's made so much. He's made a freaking fortune for
Yeah,
himself, and
yeah,
it's just, it's like, oh my god. But yeah, it's funny though, because even here in the chat, you know, staying alive because of connections. You know, Ethereum too. You know, lobbying the SEC pretty much.
yeah.
There are a hell of a lot of tokens that, in my opinion, are flat out securities. You know what I mean? SEC,
For sure.
Ethereum itself to me is in a sketchy situation. So I was kind of impressed to see the words said about it. Oh, it's not a security. It'll be interesting to see how things go for Ripple, because Ripple in all aspects to me should be a security as well. But when it comes down to connections and who you know, again, we have some individuals there who have a lot of money and obviously a lot of connections. You know, I think what they had Ben Bernanke, you know, helping out at points, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? So it's like, will that get labeled as security?
Well,
Don't be
I mean,
surprised if it's not.
they had a representative on the Ellen DeGeneres show, right? Was that Ashton
Oh yeah,
Kutcher
yeah.
or
Ashton Kutcher
somebody?
gets up there. Yeah,
Yeah.
gives like, I don't know, was it $1
And
million or
so
$4 million with a
you know what
Ripple?
it's like? I mean, this goes back to my point. Like, you can kind of fake it into relevance. You know, if you
Yeah.
have enough
Oh yeah.
money and you could spend enough time on marketing and doing the right things for your project, you can literally fake it till you make it. I think that's very
Yeah.
true in real life too. And it
Yeah.
just goes back to
Very
this
evident.
concept of like reflexivity, where, you know, if you have a lot of money, even if you have no project, you can kind of will your project into existence by
Yeah.
pumping it, by advertising it, and then you actually do get good developers, which actually make your project a good thing that people want to use.
Mhm.
And this cycle is true of actual products, you know, whether it
Yeah.
be an iPhone, an iPad, a Kindle tablet, whatever it may be, you know, and
Yeah.
it's true of crypto coins too.
Yeah. Yeah. I absolutely.
Okay, one more thing I just want to touch on quick before we wrap this up is somebody brought up before, I think it was Crypto at Night. Shout out Crypto at Night, good supporter of the podcast. We love you, dude. Um, was EOS and their launch and how
Mhm.
that might impact other smart contract platforms.
Yeah, I'm not very familiar on the situation there. I've heard a few things that seem a little, to me, you know, pardon my French, but fucked up. I think what they figured out a way that they can like all on their own deactivate and take over different accounts if they think, you know, there's misuse being going on, or, you know, like maybe, you know, someone's stealing funds or something. They can personally go through and halt an account, freeze it. Um, that's so centralized. Like,
Well,
I'm
I mean,
sorry, like there's a lot of centralized projects, but that takes the cake. You know, like that is just, to me, that is, it's a line too far. It's like, yeah, I get it. We want to help people. We
well,
want to, you know, we want to be able to go in and stop this, you know, this mess of scammers trying to take money from people. But enabling that onto your blockchain, to me, is just, it's
well,
completely
I mean,
ludicrous. I
the
don't know.
recent thing where they halted transactions from 27 different addresses, and then did you see their reasoning for doing it or what
No.
they said? So their explanation was, we've done this for reasons that we'll explain later.
Yeah. Like, okay.
And this goes
Sweet.
against everything that blockchain is supposed to stand
Yeah.
for, that crypto is supposed to stand for in terms of transparency and full disclosure, and
To
nobody's in
me, you know,
charge.
and what? How much did they raise? They raised about
Four
$4 billion. You
billion,
know,
yeah.
like what the fuck do you need $4 billion for?
I
Like,
mean,
sorry, but you know, if you're raising that much money, for one, you raise that much money, you better be able to launch properly. They haven't
Yeah.
even been able to launch properly. Like,
Well,
there's zero excuses. And I think even there was like a thread, Bryce Wiener on Twitter was saying, like, he was kind of ripping into him too. It's like, there could be charges laid about this because this is just garbage. Like this, I think 90% of the supply is, controlled by just a few people.
I mean,
Not something I would want to be buying into for the long term. Obviously, there might be some holders listening to it who really like it. I don't want to offend you. Sorry, but not my kind of a project.
and the thing is, we talked like a little bit previously how about like projects are good because they have a balance of all these different things. And I think perhaps EOS is a project, or EOS, however you want to call it, is a project that went too heavy into
Oh,
the corporate side where we raised a whole bunch of capital, but we have
yeah.
no sense of the
Mhm.
ideals of this community and what people want to see
Yeah.
in a project, right?
Yeah. To me, it's just, people like to shit on Tezos about their crowd sale, their fundraiser, how it went about, and how, they raised so much money. But a lot of people don't even take into consideration shitting on EOS when they talk about EOS and Tezos. EOS, has had a months long fundraiser. So instead of just lumping
Oh,
it
I
into
mean, I
like a
think it's like
2 week
years,
thing,
dude. I
yeah,
think it's like a
instead of
year
lumping it
plus.
into a 2 week window,
Yeah.
they spread it out so that they could raise as much money as they want. And you know what? Nobody's going to really raise shit about it because at the time it's like, it's not in this short time span like Tezos was. It's like, wow, they raised so much money in 2 weeks. Well, EOS has been raising money nonstop for months, maybe years. Yeah, I don't even know when it started. It's just, it's absurd. They raised $4 billion. They can't launch, their platform properly. To me, it's just something that I would not want to ever put my money into.
And
And
the thing is, like, the 4 billion is a net positive, I think. But obviously, because they're gonna have money to bribe exchanges, to pay
yeah,
developers, to pay for talent, to market, all
yeah,
that nonsense. But I mean, it's at a certain point you have to get the community to buy into you as well. And I
yeah.
don't think EOS really has that because I think it's
I mean, it's got
antithetical
like the kind of
to,
Ripple
yeah,
vibe
exactly,
to
that
it,
stink. Yeah.
Yeah. And again, I was just thinking to myself, like, I wouldn't be surprised if EOS gets on Coinbase, but then maybe Coinbase is taking into consideration these things because somehow Ripple isn't on Coinbase yet. So who knows, right?
Yeah, true.
Yeah. But
Anyway,
yeah,
folks.
hold on. Someone says shitcoins are the real bubble. I'm going to touch on this. I
Okay.
100% agree. We are still seeing coins that, to me, are so severely overvalued in the altcoin market. It's kind of ridiculous, like I'm finding it really tough for myself to want to look at alts that are, say, like, oh yeah, that would be a good buy, unless they're, well under probably 20 million market cap, because risk reward wise, I don't see anything that is in favor for me on some of these larger, $500 million market cap project that is just vaporware, right? That classic marketing project. It's like, to me, and a lot of the market is kind of saturated with this stuff now. These things that got really overinflated, and now they're kind of just downward spiraling, but it's slow at the same time and it's painful. I think, it's still a lot of the alt market is, stupidly overvalued for a large part, which is kind of weird to say because we've seen things drop so much. But I still, Bitcoin, different story. Alts, different story. Alts, it's like, I don't know about these. So
Yeah, I agree, dude. Anyway, we're gonna wrap this up. Thank you everybody for being here. It's been a fun Sunday night as always doing this. So thank you all for joining us. Dale, sober up, join us next time, bro.
yeah.
But anyway, enjoy your Sunday nights. Prince, anything else you want to impart to the listeners?
So someone's asking about the hostility between me and my neighbor here because they didn't get a weather report. Still hostile. Interesting situation. We'll just leave it at that. Haven't really had much contact, but there's the odd stares, downs, and it's interesting. So yeah, nothing crazy though. Since I'll keep you guys posted on the whole situation.
Alrighty, enjoy your nights, everybody. Podcast listeners, you'll probably hear this on Tuesday or so. Have a nice week and peace out. Take care, everybody.